Where they are returning to their own countries, we must ensure they can return in safety with dignity and support, to reduce the risk of them just simply falling prey again to that cycle of trafficking. And sadly, that has happened too often in the past. And many countries in recent years have taken major steps in putting into place sensitive assistance schemes. But you know, there's still more to be done. We have to do more too to crack down on trafficking, to free those held in modern-day slavery and bring people responsible for it to justice. And we do now, in general, have the international agreements and the domestic laws in place. They're there in that document. Well over 100 countries, including the UK, have signed and ratified the UN Trafficking Protocol, which calls for cooperation and action to prevent, suppress and punish human trafficking. The International Criminal Court has made it clear that it regards the crime of enslavement as one of the serious offences which it will investigate and prosecute. And of course, Antonio mentioned that wonderful landmark judgment against Niger, which remains one of the strongholds of slavery. The court ordered the government of Niger to pay compensation to Hadjiatou Mani for failing to protect her from slavery. She was sold at 12, like so many thousands in the region, to her master. But this time, he didn't get away with it. This time, the country was held to account for his misdeeds. And it was a strong message to governments that they really couldn't just turn a blind eye, giving hope at last, long overdue, to their citizens that something would finally be done. In the UK too, we have taken the lead. We've seen significant steps, such as the creation of the Human Trafficking Centre, to improve coordination to detect and root out these crimes. It's linked with a national action plan to combat human trafficking in all its forms, but we still need to see more political will and commitment by the police and the local authorities in time and resources to use the weapons that have now been put at their disposal. But also, everybody here has a part to play. We have to step up our efforts to tackle global poverty. We have to make sure that we fight to ensure that women play their full role in their societies, and therefore eliminate that climate in which trafficking can breed. We can't simply give the victim sympathy. We have to be indignant that such evil still exists. It was that indignation which fueled Wilberforce and his fellow campaigners, and they had a long battle before the vested interests whose wealth depended on enslaving fellow human beings finally gave way. The transatlantic slave trade was abolished, as Kofi Annan pointed out during the 200th anniversary celebrations, because thousands of people took personal responsibility for what was happening around them. And appealing for a similar campaign in the 21st century, he said this: "We must approach today's abuses in the same spirit, each of us seeking not to blame somebody else, but to think what we can do to hasten their end. There is no evil so entrenched that it cannot be eradicated. Inspired by the abolitionists of 2 centuries ago, let us fight against exploitation and oppression and stand up for freedom and human dignity." That's a rallying call to inspire us all. Our response to the scale of the crime and the depth of its depravity in the 21st century should not be despair. It must be anger. We must show in this chapel here today the same resilience and passion for our cause that William Wilberforce and his fellow campaigners showed in the chapels up and down England in 200 years ago. No matter how many disappointments and defeats, and they had many, they never gave up. They never stopped campaigning educating and changing attitudes. We can do that too in the 21st century. We can mobilize public opinion to see that the legislation, domestic and international, is enforced. We can do something in our country because trafficking is not something that's happening somewhere else. It's here in our community, in our streets, on our doorsteps. We have to stand up and be counted if we're going to root out this misery and menace. When, in fact, the fight to end trafficking becomes a truly mass movement, then things will change, which is why the 1.5 million signatures is such a significant point. It's such a magnificent thing. They told Steve he'd never do it, and yet he did. And with today's internet, surely we have the tools to reach out to more people, not less. If Wilberforce, with all that was there in the 18th and 19th centuries, could reach out and make a movement, how can we, with all the tools that we have available, how can we fail? That's why Stop the Traffic is so important, because it's rooted in community action. And I'm delighted and proud to be standing here among people committed to that cause. You know, there would be no more fitting tribute to the brave campaigners of history, or to the authors of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 60 years on, than for you and for me to step up our efforts to stop the traffic. Our goal must be to build a world in which everyone, men, women and children, are free and safe and have a chance to prosper, to realize their potential, just like we in this room have had that opportunity. If we can have it, we owe it to our fellow human beings to make it possible for them too. And if we really mean it, if we work hard enough, we can. We can, as somebody very famously said not so long ago. We can do it. Thank you.